before Trent opens the door, what I want you all to understand about the cheese, particularly this natural rind cheese, is the rind, or the outside, is probably the greatest diversity of microorganisms that you will consume on a daily basis. You're not only getting the cultures in the cheese, which could be dozens of cultures, but you're getting what's in the air. You're getting, this is a completely raw product, so this is a microecology with every bite. I also want you to understand that while cheese means a lot of things to a lot of people, most everyone likes the taste of cheese. It makes almost everything better or more palatable. I couldn't think of many things on the planet that in a 1 ounce serving give you more than cheese. I really don't think we've appreciated that. Some of us eat 8 ounces of cheddar bites every day because we like it, it's very versatile, but there really is not a lot that you could get on this planet in a 1 ounce size where you're getting 6 to 8 grams of high quality protein, 10 grams of high quality fats, hundreds of milligrams of omega-3s, CLA, 70 micrograms of vitamin K2 in the MK4 form, and that is not to mention the calcium, the phosphorus, the B12, etc. So this cheese really is something special, and not only is there not much you could do better than cheese, but we don't know of a single cheese, you can look at health food stores or online, that is certified organic, that is truly raw, that is green-fed, and that is free of beta-casein A1. There's cheeses free of beta-casein A1, sheep or goat. They're not organic, they're not grass-fed, they're probably, many of them aren't raw. So we think that out of the 10 unique attributes our cheese has, if another one has 3, it's fortunate. And if they do have 3, it's usually going to be $25 to $35 a pound. So you can't think in terms of what you get at a health food store or the 8 ounce block of the cheese that is produced from a centralized creamery with hundreds of dairies supplying it. When you add farmstead and artisanal, there truly is nothing else like this. A lot of what makes our cheese unique is not what you find in it or even under a microscope, but if you look at the process or the energy by which this cheese conveys and how quickly it becomes cheese in its stored form from the pasture, that is an incredible energetic quality to this if you believe in the principles of homeopathy. And that's an interesting point. How long does it take from the cheese you eat, which is essentially stored sunlight that was transferred by the green pasture to the cow, how fast is the sunlight stored in something you can consume? And cheese essentially is a milk supplement when milk wasn't consumed. Traditional dairies in Europe particularly don't milk in the winters. We're not going to milk in the hot summer. We're adapting to our environment. But cheese is stored milk, and it captures milk on any given day. So the cows could actually produce a vastly different dairy product when consuming a rye clover mix than a fescue, orchard grass, etc. So we're actually capturing on a given day, we could say, well, this cheese was made on this date and it's all labeled, and you could get the nutrition from oat grass one day, ryegrass another day, clover another day, and then soon the other forages, we're planting different radishes and beans, etc. Even corn grass will produce a different nutritional profile, sorghum Sudan. So you're actually, by eating our cheese over a period of time, you are getting the nutrients from a diverse species of plants, could be 20, 30 plants. So in a way, this is giving you your vegetables and your sunlight all internally. So if you're soaking up the sun by eating our cheese, that's a good tagline.
That's really good information to know, because even the complaints that we'll get about the prices, people really don't know what's in it. And this is good for me, which that's a lot of information, but even to try to express to them that this is, you don't realize what you're getting. This isn't like comparing it to you go to Walmart and get a slab of cheese. Yeah. I mean,
absolutely. I think to truly appreciate what you're getting, you have to really be inside the facility, see the care that we take, see the pasture. Right. But there's good cheese out there. I mean, many people make good cheese, but it's one element of what we do. It's not the whole picture. And I think that as great as Amasi is and as unique it is, Suero is obviously very unique, but if you look at something that everyone knows what it is, our cheese is probably the most differentiated product we have from what is considered the norm, what is considered healthy, and certainly what is considered organic.
Sure, and I have to say this, I deal with a lot of patients who are so sick they're down to, you know, under 100 pounds. And the cheddar bite and the cheese, it literally is the only food that seems to not only sustain them, but allows them to thrive, you know, even back to health, you know, because it is that perfect of a food with really most of the things that those people really are lacking, a lot of the fat-soluble vitamins, the protein, the enzymes, and obviously even the bacteria. And I believe the cheese even has a lot of bacteria that we are unable even to measure, you know, because it's not heated above the cow's body temperature. So, you know, the cheese offers them so much of what is needed today in the epidemic of diseases and inflammatory diseases. So the cheese is underappreciated. It is a perfect food that when you see someone who's like very, very sick, you know, they're able to eat it and just thrive on it. You know it's a perfect food.
The cheese actually has yeasts, so that yeasts and molds, fungi. It's got bacteria, and it's got something called phage, which is a friendly virus. So the cheese has a complete microecology. That's what you see. It is forming a microecology. That's what the rind is, and then inside is the epitome of diversity. So I'm using a lot of multi-syllabic description here. But let me also say this. I've always had this feeling/opinion, because I've worked with people that are very ill, and I work with professional athletes. That's how Colt and I were introduced, was when he was coming back from an injury playing professional baseball. And I've always felt like what works for someone who's sick, particularly in a wasting situation, will work incredibly well for performance. We live in a world where people buy all kinds of protein powders. Yeah. Plant-based is very popular now, certainly has some advantages to the whey protein, etc. There is not a better building food that is legally available in the United States than our cheese, particularly our raw cheddar bites. And if athletes consume 8, even 10 ounces a day, you're not just getting the 40, 50, 70 grams of protein, but you're getting all the cofactors necessary to utilize protein. They tell athletes, whether you're playing an amateur or professional sport, particularly bodybuilding, to consume hundreds of grams of protein in the form of powders. You are getting a single macronutrient that's been fractionated, whereas with our raw cheddar bites, you have got hundreds of bioactive compounds that allow you to utilize the protein and give you, I've often said there's 4 factors or 4 constituents of raw protein that's important. Native amino acids, which are amino acids in their undenatured form. They're the building blocks of every cell of your body, your hair, your skin, your nails, your muscles. Your hormones are made of proteins. Your immune system cells are proteins. But native amino acids work to restore and regenerate. There's only one nutrient on the planet that's Latin derivation means very important or of primary importance, that's protein. Then you've got enzymes to break down the protein. And in this case, the protein's been broken down into peptides and free-form amino acids. Peptides are amino acid chains. They go into your body and actually function. They're not broken apart like free-form amino acids. They actually have an effect on the gut. They are used to regenerate tissue in burns, in wasting, etc. So peptides, and also peptides are used in our skincare products to regenerate the epithelial cells of our body, the dermis of our skin, etc. Then you've got probiotics, which break down residual proteins that are undigested, that enzymes don't break down. And we've got a great diversity. There is, in each ounce of cheese, a clinically studied amount of probiotics. I had not shared this previously, but there's a probiotic that's been studied. I've seen research since 1983, and every ounce has the clinically studied amount of that probiotic. This is not the cheese culture. This is something we've infused it with, and that probiotic can withstand heating. So you can have broccoli and cheese or probiotic pizza, which is a phenomenal opportunity, or for us who are here, probiotic lasagna during the cookbook session. And lastly, fat-soluble vitamins are part of every protein. Cheese happens to be very high in vitamin K and also has some vitamin A. It has less vitamin E and vitamin D, but it's all in there, all those fat-soluble vitamins. When you consume a protein powder from the health food store, you're usually getting one of the 4 key elements. Obviously, when I formulate a protein powder like I have for Garden of Life, I've included all 4 in raw protein, and it just so happens to be the #1 selling protein powder in health food stores. Raw protein is amazing. It is the best protein powder there is. You're looking at a room full of regenerative properties, and it doesn't belong in this room, it belongs in people's bodies. So you're going to hear a lot about our great new products today, but I want you to remember, you don't have to usually twist arms for people to eat cheese, but what this can do for people is pretty phenomenal. And doctors like Dan here and others are seeing this be treated like gold by some of the people that couldn't utilize any other food to nourish themselves. But this is really a food that affects your bones, it affects your brain, it affects your cardiovascular system. And we're only going to learn more about the nutrients and compounds contained in this cheese in the future, and we're going to either wish we consume more or be glad we've been consuming this. Also, I've made a mention of the fact that my family's coming here. We're going to be exposed to a lot more diverse microecology, a lot more pollen as you're experiencing, which all ultimately is good for us. But when we ship raw cheese to you, it is the greatest expression of Beyond Organic farms and ranches that you'll have, because it is in its undenatured raw form. So you are getting a transfer of whatever happens or whatever God's doing on this property. It is saved and preserved better than any other representation in our cheese. It kind of just dawned on me as we were talking about that.
Very cool. Can you give a short answer on, a lot of people are going to be stocking up through the dark season, so as far as freezing, like not losing all the, nutrients and stuff, is there a recommendation like...
Are you talking about cheese or the other products?
Cheese, mossy.
Well, the cheese, as you can tell, there's no dark period, so the cheese is going to be around.
Oh, so that's going to be, okay.
Well, the cheese takes 60 to 360 days to age. The average cheese that a customer gets is 150 days, correct, Rachel? So we've kind of looked at 4.5 months as being ideal. The cheddar bites right at 60 days. So all of this is here, and there will be no cheese shortage in the dark period if there is.
Even the cheddar curds.
The cheddar curds we are working on, and Rachel's making a considerable amount. Obviously, it's our most popular and fastest growing cheese. That would be the only one that would be a shortage, but it only takes 60 days to age that, whereas it takes 4.5 months to age these. The difference with cheddar bites, it's more labor intensive because it's individually packaged.
Right.
The Amasi and the Suero, we do believe can be frozen. There will be an occasional bulge of the lid. We are actually working on a bottle switch in the future that will prevent that, but if somebody freezes a Suero and Amasi, they need to do so at their own risk. If they freeze it and it bulges, we're not going to replace it, but we just did a recent test and less than 5% of the bottles had any issues upon freezing. So, and if it does bulge, as long as it was okay at first, there's no
it doesn't leak. I mean, it just bulges, and it's bulging in your freezer.
Yes.
But as far as losing probiotics or anything like that, is there a...
That's a great question. I know you're going to get at. Sorry for interrupting.
No.
All probiotics used in supplements today are freeze-dried. They're all frozen. So the notion of probiotics being damaged and freezing, whether it's true or not, which it isn't true, doesn't matter, because the probiotics that people are taking have already been frozen.
And they actually prefer the cold, most of those bacteria. So.
They stay in a suspended animation.
Exactly, yeah. And I freeze it all the time when I travel, because I travel a lot. Warren and I, we will freeze a bunch of bottles the night before, and then we put it in our checked baggage. So it becomes its own ice pack, and then that's how I travel. Because people are always like, "What do you eat? What do you eat?" I always travel with Suero Gold and Amasi and cheese, and it travels with you. So.
But in terms of living elements, I've actually sprouted seeds on many occasions that were frozen. So there's a lot of misunderstanding on enzyme activity, etc., just been passed on from book to book. And one thing that I have suffered from, as well as all the other somewhat naive or borderline ignorant health authors, which has frustrated many people like Trent and Rachel who are actually doing it, we have passed along research that came from one 27-cow study saying that there's 4 times the CLA in this milk versus others, or all conventional beef is loaded with omega-6s and doesn't have omega-3s. There is a lot of truth to what's been shared, but there's a lot of misinformation. I've learned more about nutrition from being here than from reading the Weston A. Price website, or things are passed along that simply are not true. There's a lot of things about conventional farming that maybe aren't as bad as some think, and there's some that are worse. And there's a lot about organic farming and grass farming that are pretty darn bad. I mean, there's a lot of things that your raw milk producer does that you don't want to know about or you wouldn't be happy with. So we're trying to really educate on the truth, and I think what everyone agrees with is there's no better way to educate than being here. Videos don't do it, photographs don't do it. The 360-degree image, the visual, the touch, the taste, the feel, even the smell of the grass, it makes a huge difference. So one theme that you're going to hear during our business training today is how do we create an experience where people can take Beyond Organic back with them, and to a deeper understanding that a simple seminar or even a book or a magazine article won't do. But understand that we're learning every day. Trent knows a lot more about agriculture than I do, but he's learning every day. And so right now, in the next 2 weeks, we're planting maybe 10 crops we've never planted either anywhere or on this property, some of which have never grown in the state of Missouri. So we're learning just like all of you, but our job is to learn and stay a little bit ahead of that information. But I've said this before when I lecture to folks that are practitioners or health food store owners or managers, and I say that if you're working or involved in our industry, call it the natural health movement, and you simply punch a time clock or you're doing it to collect a paycheck, and you miss out on the experience, you don't allow this to make a difference in your health and your family's health, and you simply look at it as a 9 to 5, obviously this group's a little bit different, you're missing the boat, because there happens to be some of the most powerful information and the greatest truth for our physical health is found here, and frankly, it's not found anywhere else. There is only a small group of people that are the front lines of our health, and right now, people like Dr. Pompa, Dr. Axe, and others of us here, we get the people that are throwaways, that no one else could help, that no one else wants to help. And so if we're the front line and also the last straw of people, we need to be prepared and understand. And so I invite you to, from this day forward, make the Beyond Organic experience a greater learning opportunity. Not just so you can one day have your own property, which by the way I hope all of you do. Everyone should either live here or have their own property. Remember what I said yesterday, if it rains and everything you own didn't appreciate in value, you own the wrong things. It's something that I just thought of a couple of days ago as I was up in the middle of the night praising God for the rain. But you really learn what it takes to make food. We take for granted that they're in a normal environment. A couple hundred years ago, in a drought, people died and didn't eat. They couldn't go to the grocery store and get pineapple from Costa Rica, or they couldn't ship hay from across the country. It was a drought, you died. That's why Joseph and his story is so powerful, because the entire civilized world would have died if they didn't consume grain from him. So these are really things that all converge on what Beyond Organic is. You can look at it as a product, or you can look at it as the truth being expressed through so many areas. And I have also said that what we are doing on this property is a microclimate. Case in point, according to the weather reports, Kashkanan got no rain yesterday. We think an inch, but at least a half an inch. This is a microclimate, this is a microeconomy. And on a physical sense, and I think in many ways spiritually, everything that is needed to transform our nation and planet can take place in an area like this. Everything. I'm talking about economically, I'm talking about physically, I'm talking about environmentally. So this is the currency that is missing from a nation that is massive consumers and non-producers. So we really want to stay away from waxing philosophical on every single discussion we have, but it's hard to be here
and see what we're doing differently and realize that, oh, there's bugs here, why? And then you think, well, why aren't there bugs where I live? What price did we pay for the lack of insects? It's the patience that Dr. Dan sees. What price have we paid to have everything we want in every single minute of the day?
Yeah.
What price have we paid to literally create a climate and an environment where maybe rain stays away because we haven't welcomed it? I mean, Trent told me that the more water you have on a property, the more water the soil holds, water is drawn to water. I mean, isn't that phenomenal? The Bible verse says, he who has will be given more, and he who doesn't have, that which he does have will be taken away. So it's very, very exciting, and I'm looking forward to sharing as many as 5 to 7 videos every day, because everything that I'm doing out here is going to be, in a sense, for the first time. We're leaving something that the world would consider great behind. I guarantee you that everyone in this room would look at the home we're leaving and want to live there. I mean, just like I wanted to live there. Everyone would look at this life that we live. Some of us live in, CJ and Laurie live in an amazing place. Dan and Marilee live in an amazing place. A lot of us live in places where there's Disney World or great weather or whatever it is. Some live in Pittsburgh, but that's okay. God calls people in different places. There's steel there, and the pirates. But not real pirates, because they can't figure out how to take anything from anybody. They're certainly ball games. But what we're gaining is something that is far greater. And because everything is new to me, planting something in the ground or encountering a different animal in the field, I'm going to be sharing that every meal I eat that is from this property is going to be unique. So we're going to have a much greater way to communicate and bring people within our environment here. So I want to make sure, as Jason shares some of the tools we're developing, that you all utilize this, because it's not about getting someone to be a distributor in network marketing. It's inviting somebody to an experience that they are not getting anywhere else. There's health gurus out there that sit at a desk, record videos, and write newsletters. That's not what we're doing. We're here on the ground and, frankly, learning just with everybody else, because eating a piece of fruit or a vegetable from the ground that was picked immediately is something that 99.9% of our children will ever experience. And our ancestors, talked to my grandmother in the morning, her breakfast was taking an apple from the neighbor's tree on the way to the little schoolhouse, with permission sometimes. This is not what we do anymore. We are so disconnected. Jason will share this probably a little bit, but we had a great meeting with Dr. Robert Malilla, who founded the Brain Balance Achievement Centers. These are centers to advance learning for children with ADHD, autism spectrum disorders, bipolar, schizophrenia, etc. And his message is that these kids are disconnected. His first book was Disconnected Kids. His second book, Reconnected Kids. He came here a week ago Wednesday, and he and I were in the pasture. He is very much focused on brain balance through neurology. Nutrition is something he believes in, but it's not his specialty. So we were there with him and his nutritionist, and he was mesmerized not only at what we're doing to reconnect the food to people, but we're reconnecting calves to their moms. And he said, I wonder what a calf who grows up to produce milk can produce for somebody's health when she was raised by a mom instead of raised in a white crate with 4 walls around and knowing no freedom. So it really got me thinking about all the things we have that can't be measured by standard equipment or technology. So it is very, very exciting what we're doing. And I know that your challenge, just like mine, is to truly explain what we have here. It's like sharing a story that was funny, but then saying you had to be there. Yeah. We have to get away from that. While we'll be making more trips here, we're never going to be able to have 1 million families out here. So think about today while we're on a break and eating lunch. What can we do to connect people to this mission and message and vision? And what can this mission, vision, and message do to reconnect people to their health and who they're supposed to be? That's what, in a way, Beyond Organic is trying to do. We've said we're providing you with what you never knew you always wanted. What is that? That's a reconnection. And we are on the cusp of losing a heritage that made this entire nation worth inhabiting. We came here for religious freedom, which now we don't have anymore, pretty much. We came here for opportunity and for a vast land that was completely a white canvas that we could paint any way, and now we're stealing that away. So we need to understand that we're recreating that connection. That's what Beyond Organic does, and we will always strive for words and phrases and paragraphs to explain it, but we need you to have your own experience here and be able to explain what it's done for you beyond ordering, beyond going on a website, beyond being on a conference call, etc. So that's something I think that's important for us to think about, and we want you to take away, whether you're working on our Beyond Organic corporate staff or whether you're a leader in the field.